Hello everyone, Kurtupo here. I know it's been quite a while, except it really hasn't. No, obviously I did not upload. I recorded and have started editing a bunch of content, but I never actually finished it between, school and finals and the holiday season. I've been a bit busier than I'd like to admit, but I did want to kind of do something, for the... I guess consider this your Christmas present from me to you, even though it is no longer Christmas. Christmas was definitely not today. Yesterday, actually, as the time of recording this, hopefully as the time of uploading it as well, assuming you're in the same time zone as me, of course. But yeah, this is meant to be just something really quick I can film and upload. I actually might be streaming this tournament over on Twitch, or will be streaming, I say, because obviously I will be uploading this after the tournament, because the tournament starts in about an hour and a quarter, so there definitely will not be time for me to upload this to YouTube in a timely manner without jeopardizing the stream, if I choose to stream it. So if I did stream it, there will be a link to the archive, to the VOD, so to speak, of that in the description below. And if there isn't any, that's probably because I've decided instead to just record them locally and upload them to YouTube later. In which case, I just hang out for the next episode, I guess, in the series. Oh yeah, what is the series? So this is a Pauper tournament. Pauper is a Magic the Gathering, or at least I think it's from Magic the Gathering. I mean, Pauper is a format in Magic the Gathering, so... and in Magic, Pauper means you can only use commons and basic lands, and the equivalent of that would be commons and basic energy in Pokemon. I don't know if you've looked at the pool for only commons. It's pretty abysmal. So we are also allowing uncommon cards, so we can actually use trainer cards. 'Cause I don't think there are any legal trainers, or rather trainers in the expanded format. I should mention this is using the expanded format as a base, so the usual expanded bans do apply, which I think only needs a couple of cards, but that's for later. Rather for never. Let's not talk about expanded bans right now. Excuse me. Woo. Talked a little too fast there. Uncommons are also legal. So the rule set is just apart from the usual cards that are legal and expanded. Only commons and uncommons. There's two kind of key rules. Number one is that functional reprints, including just straight up reprints, err on the side of legality. That is to say, stuff like our super rare twin energy are legal because there is an uncommon twin energy. That part seems a little bit obvious, but if you don't specify, someone's gonna be like, oh no, I can't use the bajillion and one full art Gladiator, because apparently I'm the only person who's Gladiator in expanded format. And also stuff like bosses' orders. I picked up a couple boss orders when I was trying to play standard. You'll notice that here, actually, let me do show not owned. All versions of bosses' orders are rare, but there is, of course, Lysander. Oop, that's not how I spell Lysander. There's, of course, Lysander, which is, well, not this version specifically, which is an uncommon card, and they are functionally identical, therefore you are allowed to use boss's orders. I believe that only applies to boss's orders. I think any other functional reprints are either all legal or all banned. There is one exception, which is Karen. Karen is legal. You'll notice that it is only a promo. It was only released as a promo over here. I don't know if it was actually a card you could get in Japan if it was also only a promo. I don't know. But the TOs have decided, or maybe TO singular, I'm not entirely sure, have decided Karen is legal. Which is relevant, not relevant to us, because spoiler alert, we're not playing it. As you can see, I don't even own the card. But that is relevant. I do think. I think the ruling was made, just because Karen is this weird like uncommon card that was only released as a promo, but I do think it will be at least slightly relevant in the overall metagame, and I'll get to that in a little bit. So those are the rules, and real quick, I tried this before, and it actually took me like 2 hours to explain everything. So I'm gonna try my best to not take up 2 hours. So the thing that you'll notice is, or at least the things I shouldn't say that you notice, that I notice, and I will hope you have noticed / will notice when I point them out, is that because uncommon cards are legal, that basically means all engines are legal. The majority of expanded decks, or even in standard decks, really, both present and past, rely on uncommon cards because uncommon is the rarity where almost all trainer cards are in. So that basically means we have the consistency, the speed, the power of, at least in terms of, engines and gaining your cards, etc., of the expanded format, which is to say really fast, right? If there are OCO decks in, expanded, and they're all, right? We all know the decks that try and take, just massive KOs, turn one and every turn afterwards. Actually, in recent expanded metagames, we've been leaning a little less towards that, but that's not a topic for today. But the other thing I noticed is that the highest HP Pokemon, is there a filter for this? I don't even know if there's a filter for HP on this client, but I'll just bring up Snorlax. Oh, I should probably have put the common, uncommon thing. Is 100. Well, actually, that's not. Snorlax doesn't have the highest HP. Okay, I guess this is Kangaskhan. It's not just Kangaskhan. There are actually quite a few Pokemon with 130 HP, but 130 HP is straight up the max. There might be. I feel like there was a Pokemon with 140. I might be wrong, but this is like the highest it gets, right? And no one is going to be, spoiler alert, I've been looking at all the cards, at least all the cards that I own. I don't own every single common and uncommon. I'm hoping I own enough, considering how long I've been playing, to get a good view of what the metagame might look like. I should probably mention, I will be referring to, the metagame might look like, because there is no, at least that I could find, recorded instance of a Pauper tournament in our modern card pool. This server, oh gosh, who runs this server? Who's running this tournament? I forgot. The links will be in the description below. Maybe future me will edit it in here, along with the Discord link to which this server is being, or to which this tournament is being held in. They've only done one other Pauper format, and that was actually done in the Unlimited format with absolutely no card bans. So you can use stuff like Puzzle of Time and Wally. I don't think Wally would have been used because I think all the good cards you use with Wally are just not legal in Pauper off the top of my head. But you could use stuff like Puzzle of Time. You could use Sableye. Dude, I would totally run Sableye if it was legal. But we kind of do run Sableye, actually. More on that later. But like, I'm not counting that. And other than that tournament that the same server ran, and they only had like 6 people, and one of them dropped out because they didn't realize it was a Pauper tournament, so they brought like Zacian Yi or something. But other than that, there's like no record, so I'm just assuming this is what the metagame is going to look like based on the cards and legality that I've seen. So Kangaskhan, or rather just 130, is kind of like the big bar. The HP ceiling for HP. You can think of Kangaskhan like your Wailord, I guess. But something of a little bit more realistic is going to be 90 HP, like our good friend, well, I guess I don't think I've played any games with Vespiquen on this channel now that I think about it, but Vespiquen used to be a card I played a lot back when I played Standard. The very short time I played Standard. I think I already talked about that on the Eggrow game, which, now that I think about it, is not up at the time of this video's recording, so oops, you'll just have to wait for that to happen. 90 HP is more realistic. Like, I would expect, like, if you want to be an Oko deck, you should be doing 90 HP a turn. But given that you have access to, you know, every single trainer card, almost every single trainer card in the expanded format, notable exceptions include, of course, the cards that are usually banned, but also the A-specs, Master Ball, Life Dew, Computer Search, Dowsing Machine, Gold Potion would actually be relevant here. Would it though? No, not really. Sorry, Gold Potion. Those are not legal. You'll notice I am without an ace spec, and that is not by accident. You're just not allowed to use them. I didn't ask. I don't know. I would assume they're not legal, right? They're ace specs. But given the speed, there are some, you know, natural decks you might try and run, right? And the obvious ones are going to be Night March / Lost March / Mad Party, because these decks can already do like 200 damage a turn on their first turn, right? So, you know, I believe Night March is completely unaffected. I could actually, like, if I wanted to, I could actually just bring my Night March deck from like 2016 and actually do well, I'm sure. Mad Party, I believe, do I still have the, like, I do, yeah, like, Mad Party loses a few cards, because I believe, what's his name, dancing guy, Mr. Rhyme, is a rare, so that's not legal, but, like, you're basically Night March, right, because you've just got 3 attackers. So, you know, I expect those kinds of decks to be prominent. Not just prominent, I expect them to really be the only viable meta decks, to be completely honest. I expect them to be the most popular, because they are the obvious choice, right? They already only rely on commons and uncommons, with the exception of Mad Party, but, you know, because max HP is 90, you won't be really hindered by Mr. Rhyme, because, like I said, you could run the 2016 Night March, or really 2015. Basically, I expect those decks to be super popular because those are the decks that are obvious, right? Oko decks, you know, meta decks that are, well, as meta decks as a Mad Party can be. I guess Mad Party is play, but these are the decks people are already familiar with. They will not have to do a whole lot to readjust themselves to the Pauper format. And it's especially great because a lot of the usual counters, keyword usual, to those decks being spread decks and just decks that do a little bit more than just Oko U, are simply not legal, literally not legal. I could run a devolution, you know, deck, but there's nothing good to devolve because all of the Pokemon with evolution abilities, that trigger upon evolving are straight up not legal, right? Raichu's not legal, Milotic's not legal, etc. And this is the case for a ton of decks, not just my, you know, usual devolution strategies. Pretty much the only, like, I really do think this is the closest you'll get to a control deck. Just Bunnelby and Diggersby. More on Diggersby later, but I imagine Bunnelby is a little bit more familiar. So those are the kinds of decks that I think people are going to run. I think that's just what's going to be popular. And in addition, just looking at the card pool, I think those are going to be the only viable meta decks. I don't think you can come up really with a better strategy than just Okoing your opponent turn 1, because all the other potential strategies you would have in metagame are simply not legal, straight up not legal. So I really do think you can either participate in the arms race, right? Or you can try and come up with something very different, and 99 times out of 100, that something different is just going to be bad and probably not beat the Oko deck. Anyway, so with that in mind, also, like, just an idea of what before I hop into my deck, what those other strategies might look like. You're going to be looking for either spread, or really just cards that can take multiple prizes in a turn. You can either try something like Torchic over here. Unfortunately, the cards that I usually use with Torchic to buff it up are straight up legal, so you can't use Torchic. I believe it's the only thing with an attack, Omega Barrage. You could try spread decks, but Actually, is Tapu Koko legal? I think that's... No, none of the Tapus are legal. But like spread decks, you can do a max 20. Maybe there's a card out there that does 30 to each Pokemon. But like I just don't think there are enough good ones. You can go for energy disruption, but what good is energy disruption when your opponent's just attaching double colorless, OHKOing you, and expecting to die the next turn anyway? Like I just don't think anything is viable other than what I've come up with. Of course, my deck is, the one true answer, right? But I do feel fairly confident, but more on that later. So I've decided to go the other route, and I was really thinking hard about this, but more like this was the first good thought I came up with, and I just did not have the time to really look at anything else. So I've come up with Blizzard Town. Blizzard Town. Pokemon with 40 HP or less remaining cannot attack. I used to have this very long story that I told in the 2-hour recording, so I won't tell it here. But basically, I will mention, I should say, in that Egg Round video, that I played Night March, and I remember Blizzard when Blizzard Town was revealed. I'm like, okay, the design team just wants Night March gone. They don't want Night March to have anything to do with Expanded, right? They'd already been releasing these big beefy tag teams that are just barely above the reach of Night March, and now they're trying to. And now they made Blizzard Town. They're just trying to get rid of Night March. That's generally what I was thinking when Blizzard Town was revealed. Like, I thought this was only just to get rid of Night March in the expanded format, because I don't think this even saw play in standard. I think this is legal in standard. I don't think I've ever seen this see play, even expanded though. I don't think I've ever seen this see any play. But we're hoping to see it play here because Pokemon with 40 HP or less cannot attack. So that automatically means this is Pokemon. If we go to the Night March, that means that Joltik cannot attack because it has 30 max HP. Lampent already can't attack, and Pumpkaboo, well, usually you need the Dimension Valley to go along with it, but if you can put 2 damage counters on a Pumpkaboo, it just cannot attack. Mad Party has a little bit, actually, let's look at Lost March. I don't think I own a good amount of Lost March cards. Oh, only 2 Lost March Pokemon? Oops, okay, I guess no one's playing Lost March, but even if people were 40 HP, just putting Blizzard Town in play just completely shuts it down. The only one we have left to look at is Mad Party. Bunnelby just straight up cannot attack. The Dene can attack, but they'll need 2 different energy attachments because they need Psychic and the double colorless. And then Poltegeist, you just need to put 2 damage counters on it. And with the Dene, you just need to put 3 damage counters on it. So you notice that there's all, and again, these are the decks that I'm expecting to see. These kind of decks get completely shut down by either just having Blizzard Town in play or having Blizzard Town in play with a couple of damage counters spread around the board. So that is our, I guess, front half of our strategy. It is combining Blizzard Towns with things like Honedge. When it is KO'd, I get to put 3 damage counters on a Pokemon. And things like Drifloon. I can discard 2 energy to put 8 damage counters however I like. That's going to be our primary way of shutting down our opponent. And Spell Tag. I used to have more Spell Tag, but I kind of had to get rid of I had to get rid of something, more on that later, and I decided Spell Tag was like not that useful. But if you played Standard around the time this was legal, you're probably familiar with it. And the second Pokemon this card is attached to is KO'd. I can put 4 damage counters however I like. So between these different spread attacks, I think I have enough to shut down these Night Marching and etc. strategies. And I think there's enough for me to deal with whatever else other people have. Again, I expect Mad Party, etc. to be the most common deck, but I imagine people will try and play cards, or rather decks that are suboptimal, but if we only account for Mad Party, we'll just lose anyway. So let's say we have that up, because it's very likely we will. What are the cards that our opponent will be using to defeat us? The answer is just playing more stadiums, so we're kind of forced to run 4 Blizzard Town and a Field Blower, because someone's going to be playing Chaotic Swell. And And in addition, cards like Scuba Net and Healing are going to be a problem. Unfortunately, the Scuba Block Mr. Mime is a rare card and is therefore not legal. And the only way to block Healing in this format is with Soul... No, not Soul Rock. Lunatone. Lunatone. With the Heal Block attack, or ability. If you have Soul Rock in play, Pokemon can't be healed. Considering that I expect the most prominent deck to be Night March, I don't think healing cards are going to be prominent enough where it is worth taking up not just 2 deck spaces, but also 2 bench spaces just to shut down, you know, a type of card I don't expect to see play. I just am hoping to not run into healing cards. And even then, we're just going to hope that we have enough damage counters to just, you know, unheal them. So let's say, you know, we've got our lockdown. This might sound familiar. We have a strategy that prevents our opponent from attacking, but there are a few key cards that would prevent our strategy from being extremely effective. So what do we do to mitigate that? We use Control. We use Trick Shovel. Where have we seen that card before? Gladian. Where have we seen that card before? Because we're not planning on taking prizes. We're planning on using our damage counters to just prevent the opponent from attacking. Oleana, where I have seen that card before. And, where I have seen that card before. Hiker, I don't think I've actually shown Hiker on this channel. Hiker is basically a Chip Ice Axe, but with 5 cards, but of course it takes your supporter for the turn. And the Junk Hunt attack, where have we seen that before? Diggersby, for 2 double colorless, i.e. A Twin Energy. Put 2 item cards from your discard pile back into your hand, so you know you can grab a Versus Seeker and a Trick Shovel. Where have we seen that before? In addition, Diggersby also allows us to run the Bunnelby, which actually sees using Control Deck. Although it's not particularly useful in this format because, number 1, Junk Hunt is just better for retrieving items. I mean, Bunnelby, I guess, is nice if we just prize all of our Lily's Pokédoll and we can't Gladian them for some reason. But using Burrow to control is not effective. I don't know if Lantern is legal. Lantern's not legal, unfortunately. But even if it was, we cannot use it for the second Burrow attack. So it's not a great strategy. We're going to be primarily relying on Diggersby. So that's kind of the deck in a nutshell. We'll be using Blizzard Town and these spreading damage counters, shenanigans, to prevent our opponent from attacking, and using Trick Shovel, etc. to prevent our opponent from drawing cards that would allow them to break our control. There are a couple of cards here I have not mentioned yet. You know, Energy Retrieval, you know, we ran them in the Junk Hunt decks. Same thing with Stretcher. As per the usual, Scuba Net here is mostly here just for Switch, or rather to be used instead of Switch. I don't think there's ever going to be an opportunity where Scuba Net would be straight up worse than Switch. I just don't think so. I really don't think so. And Scuba Block is banned anyway, or rather not legal, I should say. So there's no point in running Switch, just run Scuba Net. So I've dedicated the rest of our deck to our draw engine, and this is the part where I think if there's like a flaw of this deck, it is this. I've chosen to run the Roxy's engine. Roxy, discard of 2 Pokemon. You get to discard 3 cards, or discard 3 cards. You can draw 3 cards for each card discarded. And we have Execute. Once during your turn, if it's in the discard pile, you can put it into your hand. So it basically means once we have to execute in our discard pile, we can bring them up with Propagation, discard them with Roxy, and then bring them back up for a later Roxy. So it basically turns Roxy from a +4, discard 2, draw 6, 6 minus 2, 4, to +6, discard essentially none because of Execute, draw 6, which is absolutely crazy. The problem is we need to be able to do that consistently, so we are forced to run 4 Battle Compressor, 4 Versus Seeker, 4 Roxy, and if I wanted to be a little bit more safe, I guess I could run more Execute, but this deck is really hurting for deck space. Like, really hurting. I'm considering taking out Twin Energy, but Twin Energy is actually, like, really good. It allows us to get Junk Hunt in a turn, and it also allows us to Burst Curse, because Burst Curse requires us to discard 2 energy. So you can just discard a double colorless if there's ever a situation where you do not expect Drifloon to go down, i.e. in the late game, mid to late game, because in the late game we're using Digger Speed. So I recognize that is a flaw. The Roxy's engine, I like the Roxy's engine, but the reality is it requires you to have a lot of cards. Like, you've just got to have 4 Roxy, 4 Battle Confessor, 4 Risk Seeker, and at least 2 Execute anyway. And because we're going this control strategy, I have to have Oleana. I guess I don't need Hiker. I just really like Hiker because it's Digger's Bee alone kind of has the problem the old Junk Hunt Jamboree deck used to have, which is we would just be playing Trick Shovel each turn, but if our opponent were to draw 3 outs in a row, there's just nothing we can do about it. Whereas in the later Lantern control, because we have Lantern, we could know whether or not to use Trick Shovel, so we weren't necessarily using a Trick Shovel each turn. And of course with the Milotic version, we're just grabbing like 3 Trick Shovel a turn. In addition, we're 2 Milotic and the Raichu, which is better than Junk Hunt's Raichu and the Trick Shovel, right? So I kind of want Hiker because it allows me, if I play both Trick Shovel, I can just Hiker to top off, and then the next turn I can grab Trick Shovel and Hiker, and then I can just play Hiker and conserve Trick Shovels that way. So Hiker is kind of a stopgap, and I think it will be a necessary one, especially if games go at the speed that I expect them to. But those are, I feel like we're at 62 cards, but I had to get rid of something, so I just got rid of 2 Spell Tag. You'll see I only have 3. But Spell Tag is really, really nice, but something has to go, and I don't really see myself getting rid of anything else. Also, Mr. Mime, I just realized I completely forgot about Mr. Mime. I didn't expect Mr. Mime to be necessary, but you know someone's going to try and build a spread deck looking at Night March. So Mr. Mime is here for that. Because in my testing, I always had an empty bench space anyway, even when I was using stuff like Lily's Polka Doll. I just always had an extra bench space, so I wanted to use something. I can't give up 2, so I won't be using that. Also, Lunatone. I didn't even mention Lunatone. I just said that to not mention Lunatone. Lunatone is just not enough, and all of the usual cards. I guess there's a Sudowoodo. Roblox Sudowoodo. I could use that, but I don't expect anyone to use Skyfield because there's no good strategies you get. Yeah, you could use Skyfield, but you don't get anything unless you want to play like 4 Zigzagoon or something like that. I guess that's another consideration. I could put Zigzagoon because I'm running SwoopNet anyway, but I don't think that's a great idea in all honesty. Excuse me. So I just went with the bench barrier, Mr. Mime, because a lot of the more passive things are either not legal or, in my opinion, are just not worth it. But who knows? Mr. Mime is more here because I'm paranoid than me making a meta call, really. In fact, if I really was confident that we were only seeing stuff like Night March, I would obviously just get rid of Mr. Mime, put another spell tag, but I don't know. That's the part where I'm conflicted. And again, you know, when you're like at 62 cards, when you have a 62 card deck and you've got to get it to 60, it's easy to look at stuff like this Roxy engine, which like by default requires basically 15 cards. 15? 4, 12, let's do 14. 14 cards. You know, we could use an engine that, you know, requires a little bit less than 14 cards. But I do really like this Roxy engine. And hopefully just 2 spell tag less isn't a huge enough deal to where it completely breaks down the strategy. Also, I'm low-key testing. You'll notice, you know, this has an eerily similar composition to a certain other control deck where we use Dunsparce, a 2-2 line, a different 2-2 line, 4 of a Pokemon. And actually, in the Devolution decks, we don't even... Well, you know, I guess, you know... Well, I was trying to make a not-so-subtle comparison to our Devolution deck, right? Because we got 2-2 line of Pikachu, Raichu. I guess it's actually 3-2 line. We've got the 3 Dunsparce. We've got the 2-2 line of Milotic Phoebus, and then, you know, the Porygon Z line. So it's like suspiciously the same amount of basics. Actually, this has more basics. And, you know, I'm always talking about how I'd like to get off the greens. Actually, have I talked about how I like to get off greens? Maybe I haven't. But I'd like to get off the greens engine at some point. Being able to use basic with abilities is super duper nice. So I'm low-key testing that here as well. But yeah, that's pretty much it. There's a lot more things I would like to talk about, but to be honest, those are mostly unnecessary, and they would actually turn this into a 2-hour video. So I'm not going to do that. Instead, I'm just going to end it here. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you either next time if I'm recording this to YouTube, or you can just see how well I did on the stream archive. You know, check out, was I right in any of my predictions? Was having Roxy's really the worst call? Was having more spell tag nice? Was Mr. Mime actually useless? Oh, I just realized something I did not talk about. Dunsparce or Lily's Pokédoll. Dunsparce is actually here when I used to use Unown, because I would like Strike and Run. Unlike in the Devolution deck, we actually will be using Strike and Run to switch out into a Honedge after we were on the bench. But I would do stuff like, oh, if I had a free turn, I would Strike and Run, you know, 3 Unown and Dunsparce, which effectively drawing me 3 cards and protecting the Dunsparce. And then I was like, that's probably not the best idea. Let's just put more spell tag, hiker, etc. Lily's Pokédoll, along with Rescue Stretcher, is here just to protect ourselves, because again, I expect to be going against these super offensive decks, and we are basically an evolution deck, right? Honedge is just here to die and further our plan, but our main attackers are going to be Diggersby and the Driftlim, of which I apparently have too many of. Like, it's an evolution deck, right? And evolution decks typically don't do super well against meta decks, where there are a lot of Oko decks, and especially in the meta, excuse me, that I assume will only be Oko decks. We need stopgap. You know, we have the Honedge. We can sacrifice a Dunsparce if need be, but we would much rather sacrifice a Pokédoll. So between that and Rescue Stretcher, and of course we have cards to discard. We've got Roxy, we've got Oleanable. We shouldn't be using Roxy purely to discard cards because it'll draw us cards. But that's how we prevent ourselves from milling out. We can just attach a Floatstone to Diggersby, switch out into Pokédolls, put it back in the bottom of our deck, and then promote the Diggersby back up, and we essentially prevent ourselves from milling, or excuse me, from decking out. We also have Recycle Energy for both free retreat and because Drifloon discards 2 of any energy, so we can just attach 2 Recycle Energy in addition to the 2 Psychic Energy if we expect Drifblim to not go down the turn, so we can just get rid of 2 Recycle Energy, get rid of 2 Psychic Energy the next turn. The other thing I just realized I failed to mention is we can actually take prizes if we need to. That's one of the primary reasons why we only run 1 Gladian, excuse me. And if we want to, if we have the right board state, or rather our opponent has the wrong board state, we can just set up a complete board wipe. We can just put damage counters anywhere, leave everything at like 10, maybe a couple at 20, maybe like 1 at 30 HP, and just Burst Curse, just get rid of everything on our opponent's board, take 6 prize cards in a turn. That's totally something we can do. Of course, I expect if we are in a position to do that, it's better that we just stick to Diggersby, play stuff like Trick Shovel and Hiker. But, you know, we could do stuff like attach a bunch of Recycle, just attach a bunch of energy to Drifloon. Maybe do the thing with Lily's Pokédoll so we don't deck ourselves out, shuffle some Pokemon into the deck, keep some Trick Shovel and a Hiker. Hope our opponent doesn't draw too many outs, and just go for multiple Burst Cursed and just win the deck, or win the game that way. I really like this deck, all things considered. You know, I think I've spent more than enough time talking about the problems I expect to have and some of the things I don't like about it. But realistically, I really like this deck. I really do like it a lot, and I think it's got what it takes to break down this, you know, at least the metagame I envision, which is just really fast offensive, and also deal with some of the stuff. You know, maybe if that's not what all we run into, and again, I imagine someone's going to try a spread deck. Oh, I should mention, actually, let me look this up, but I believe the Machoke, Well, actually, this Machoke is legal. But will people run it? Probably not. I imagine people will just be running the Mr. Mime. Because we're replacing damage counters, not dealing damage, we get around Mr. Mime. So unless people are playing this Machoke, I think we're fine. Also, unlike our usual control strategies, we can actually attack Eerie Wave for 30 damage. 30 damage is not insignificant, obviously, when our goal is to place like 30 damage counters on a Pokemon I call a day. And that's what confuses them, so that's nice too. I've gone with this Drifloon. We can deal 10 damage with a single colorless energy. And again, the damage is not insignificant, actually. And we can also Creepy Wind, just confuse them if we believe that to be the case. And Sudden Flash, dealing damage is actually not a bad thing, unlike in the usual case. Unfortunately, Bunnelby does not deal damage. Digger's Beat requires 3 energy to attack. We're obviously not doing that. Even if it does have immunity on a coin flip. You know, we obviously will not be attacking with Mr. Mime and Execute because we simply do not have the energy to do that. And we're obviously not planning on piling 3 Psychic Energy on Honedge. We're just planning to sack it. But anyway, I think that's pretty much it. I even went a little bit over time, realistically. But this is the deck that I will be running, and I really do like this deck. There are a couple things I'm not so sure on, Mr. Mime, Spell Tag, etc., but I've already expressed my grievances there. And I really do like this deck. I really am confident that I can just win this tournament, really. At least do really, really well. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I guess I should mention, I believe this is 5 rounds of Swiss, and then top 8, maybe top 4. Actually, can I double check that real quick? Oh, let me check into the tournament. I'm glad I thought about that. 5 rounds of Swiss, 2 rounds of... Oh yeah, so top 4. 5 rounds of Swiss, top 4. Okay, I was going to say like 5 rounds of top 8. That's like pretty lenient. No, 5 rounds of Swiss, top 4. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm going to be ending my rambling here. I'll see you guys next time for whatever it might be. Until then, take care. Hello everyone, Kurtupo here, and if you're wondering why the video isn't over, that is because I am adding in this section. Just for the record, this little section here is being recorded after the tournament, and I just wanted to talk a little bit about, I guess, just how we did. I did mention, it kind of goes without saying, but if you have not seen the archive, you should probably, and you're interested, of course, in seeing the tournament and how we did, etc. Unlike the last few tournaments, it is not just gameplay only. I actually was there and commentating. Can I call it commentating if it's my own gameplay? I don't know. I was there talking, rambling as per the usual. So if you are interested in watching that, you really should, because I'm just about to spoil how we did. So there's a warning. So yeah, let's go for it. How well did we do? The answer, not that great. Pretty terrible. Actually, let's bring it on screen for a split second. We went 1-4, which is obviously pretty terrible. So what went wrong? I don't actually remember. I just remember the first 2 games because those are the first 2 games that we actually like. You know, you never say you've won a game until you've won the game, but we pretty much had the game, especially that second round. If it is the second round that I'm thinking about, with the where I like forgot to play Blizzard Town. Round 1, I believe, was against the Luxio deck, and we forgot to play. We had the Battle Compressor, we discarded the Execute and Roxy, and then we forgot to play Versus Seeker to grab back that Roxy, so they just item locked us, and then we didn't have any of our draw supporter because we forgot to play Versus Seeker, even though our draw supporter was sitting there in the discard pile with a Versus Seeker sitting there in our hand. I just completely forgot about that, and that is totally on me, which I think I've said enough times. Both of those games actually were totally on me. And, sorry, there's like a dog howling. But that didn't quite sound like my dog. It's just someone walking their dog outside. But, what was I talking about? Right, so those last 2 games, or first 2 games, really, they didn't go so well. I think we then got the bye afterwards. Actually, let me pull up the opponent's deck list. I probably should have done that before. But, let's see here. I'm trying to find it on Limitless. Limitless. If someone from Limitless is watching this, you should really add a section where I can see the tournaments that I competed in, because now I have to go through all the tournaments on Limitless just to see what happened. Format, other. There we go. I found it. So yeah, match history. Yeah. So first up, we were up against. Whoops, that's not how I do it. Oh, you guys can't see what I'm doing. That's fine. I'll just have future me post the deck list. Yeah, first of all, we were up against the Luxio, and that's when that happened. Then we were up against the Tool Drop deck. That's right, that was a Tool Drop deck where we forgot to play Blizzard Town, and it literally cost us the game. Round 3, we got the bye. That was our first win, so we basically lost every single game. Next up, I believe that's the one where we kind of just drew very poorly. And, sometimes I just, say, oh, it's a game of luck. It happens sometimes, and it does happen sometimes, but, I'll touch more on that later, because I don't think that time was really just, oh, we drew bad, there's nothing we could do about it, because there kind of was something we could do about it. And then the last round, we were up against Wobbuffet, Spinda Mimikyu, and I think that's the one where I forgot that they could place down Golbat to damage that Wobbuffet could KO our Diggersby, so instead of having the 2 Diggersby loop, we kind of just floundered for a little while, and we just never recovered from that. Yeah, that's pretty much it. If you wanted the roundup on how we did, in case you just did not feel like watching the 3-hour VOD or however long it was. This was best of 1, by the way. Although, again, since we're playing a much slower control deck, or just a much slower deck in general, but pretty much the only control deck, actually, unless you want to count Item Lock as control, which I guess you could, but even then, that's a lot faster. We're pretty much the only, really slow deck, so a best of 3 would have just been probably just a best of 1 anyway. But, yeah, let's talk about that. Those were the games. The first 2 games, I felt really good, and I think there's even a point in the actual tournament VOD itself where I went through all of the deck list on stream, and I talked about what my matchups might look like, potential game plans, etc. And overall, I was pretty confident that I could beat pretty much everything, and I still do think that was the case. I think if I was a bit smarter in doing stuff like playing Versus Seeker before the item lock goes up, and not forgetting to play Blizzard Town, which is kind of the whole point of the deck, then we probably would have done a lot better. And, maybe if I wasn't as greedy with some of my decisions, both in-game and in the deck building process, I do think we could have done extremely well. But unfortunately, we just lost all of them because, oh well, that's just what I get. So yeah, let's talk about the tournament, because that's honestly what I'm a little bit more excited to talk about. Again, I went through every single deck list, because it was open deck list. I went through every single deck list that was registered in the tournament, and I noticed something very, very interesting, which was that I did, yet again, completely wrong meta call. I actually did expect, just a lot of Night March, Mad Party, etc., and then decks that were okay, I'm gonna try and beat Mad Party and Night March, etc. And, to be fair, a lot of the decks were equipped to at least try and throw a wrench in Night March's plans. I really don't think a whole lot of decks were adequately prepared for Night March, but I don't think... Actually, I'm gonna double check this right now, but I don't think there was a single Night March deck, at all. I don't think so. Yeah, there was not a single Night March or what's it called? Mad Party at all. It was absolutely zero. That's what we call the worst meta call in the world. Expecting all the Night March, and there's literally zero of them. So that was bad. Although this was good confirmation that, you know, Blizzard Town plus Burst Curse is enough to shut down a lot of the other things. Because I was like, oh, I'll just, you know, well, you guys just saw the video where I was talking about this, but I said, okay, this deck is kind of just designed to beat Night March, and we're just kind of gonna hope that it's enough to beat all the other random things. And I do feel fairly confident. You know, I do think this adequately shut down a lot of those other random things. It didn't work out, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. How we could have improved those odds, but in terms of a meta call, that was probably the worst meta call I've ever made. But that's actually really nice because I was not expecting this format to be particularly interesting going forward. Like, yeah, it's interesting because it's like the first one, but if it was just Night March and stuff that beats Night March, or at least tries to beat Night March, that's not really an interesting format in my eyes. So I'm very glad to see that. Even though it's very easy to go to stuff like Night March, Mad Party, etc., there weren't really a whole lot of... well, there was 0 Night March, so I'm glad that's not the direction the metagame is going. Another thing to mention is that I mentioned it was usually expanded as a base, and if you saw the tournament VOD, you know this. But it turns out expanded was not the base. It was actually the unlimited format. The rules apparently were unlimited format with expanded bans, and it never said anywhere explicitly that it was the unlimited format. It just said expanded bans. So I just assumed we were using expanded format as base, but it actually was just the unlimited format with expanded bans, so you still could not use things like Sableye and Wally, etc. Which is pretty interesting because I did mention that this is technically the second Pauper tournament they've done, but the first one was just straight up unlimited, no bans at all. So if had I known that, we could have used stuff like Junk Arm, and I think even on stream I tried to really quickly make a deck where it was just Giraffe Rig and Lost World, and so you just put 6 Pokemon in the Lost Zone and then declare game. That sounds like something really fun to try out, but I did not know that, because what happened was the person who actually won the tournament was just using 4 Junk Arm, as they should, right? If Junk Arm is legal, you should absolutely be using it. Had I known that, I definitely would have put Junk Arm in this deck, because Junk Arm would have been super duper nice in this deck, because we could have reused a lot of stuff. Really, Diggersby's pick-up attack becomes infinitely better with Junk Arm, because you can just pick up 2 Junk Arm and then you can decide the next turn. A lot of the skill from playing Junk Hunt decks is deciding what to grab, because you don't know if you'll need it until the next turn, so you have to make the right decision, because if you don't, you're a turn too late. And with Junk Arm, you don't have to. There are no bad decisions. You just pick up Junk Arm. That's the only decision to make. And it's just really powerful. But I just did not know that. I guess, I should have asked the TO, but, I do feel if you are using unlimited format rules, you should probably state that somewhere. I don't know. I already let the TO know, though, so I'm not. I don't want to sound like I'm hating on the TO, because I'm not. I actually think they did a really good job actually running this tournament. But that is my one really 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 big gripe. You should probably mention that somewhere, right? It can be in the fine text, because it's on player, but you should really say that somewhere. But yeah, things that we learned. Roxy's engine, to the surprise of no one, is really good, but it's not as consistent as we would like it. And I really do like the Roxy's. I've never actually tried using the Roxy's engine in a competitive setting. I use it in decks I use to grind the ladder, and decks I make for fun and stuff like that. But I've never actually tried to use Roxy as a solid engine for a deck I'm trying to win a tournament with. So this is kind of also the testing grounds for that, and I really do like the Roxy's, but I don't think it quite works in a deck where we need all of these all of these different cards that we absolutely need, specifically Blizzard Town. I do think, because with Roxy you need the Battle Compressor, you need the Verse Seeker, you need the full Roxy, you need a lot of Execute, and Yeah, that takes up a lot of cards. So Roxy really is only the good in decks that are already either consistent, like if you've already, the type of deck who's putting in Judge Whistle and Unknown and Buddy Buddy Rescue and Rescue Switcher and stuff like that. I guess you could use Roxy's then, but otherwise, Roxy's is probably not the best thing in the world. I also... that's not true. I was going to say, we could have tried going to greens, but if we were trying to go to greens, we could get rid of the Mr. Mime, but Honage is kind of really useful for that, so I don't know. I don't know if greens could have been nice, but greens was not the only supporter ever. We totally could have run a non-Roxy's engine, and I think we would have done a lot better. The other really big thing is that I completely forgot about counter energy. I apparently only have one of them. Maybe I traded the rest to someone. Actually, another thing about it, I lent someone quite a few cards. You may go bug them about that. But counter energy exists. That's kind of the perfect card for this deck. I don't know how it just did not occur to me that maybe I should use counter energy. There was a special rule, I did mention it in the previous segment, that you could only have up to 4 dual energies. I don't know where counter energy, does counter energy count as a dual energy? But I would have definitely have put it in, Also, special energy denial / removal / whatever was basically non-existent. And to be fair, in the Night March meta that I expected, that makes sense. Hold on. I'm just quickly checking right now. How many Faba were played? I think only one person played Faba, and they only played one Faba. Let me double check that. Yeah, only one person played Faba. Because according to Limitless, it has the same play rate as Oleana, and I'm fairly certain I was the only person playing Oleana. So there's literally one Faba in the entire format. So obviously, had I known, or had I suspected Faba would not be in every single deck like I imagined, we definitely could have used more than 5 energy. We could have used Horror Psychic energy, because that places damage counters as well. Although Horror energy is not as, great, because we don't decide where the damage counter goes. The opponent decides, so they can totally, if they want, just KO themselves. But it's definitely better than nothing, right? At least if they choose to KO themselves, they take a price. Actually, they can't. What I meant, sorry, I kind of skipped over that. Obviously, if Blizzard Town is in play, they cannot just KO themselves. But anyway, it doesn't matter. The point is, we should have played Horror Energy, and we really should have played Counter Energy. Even if Fab was in every deck, I still think we should have played Counter Energy. But I just completely forgot about Counter Energy, so that's totally on me. Also, Hiker was not as great as I thought it would be, because, actually, I shouldn't say that. Hiker was not useful, but also, if we had stuff like better engines, Hiker is the card we use, like, in the late game. Like, once we already got our lockup, we're just sitting with Digger's Bee, junk hunting every turn. That's when we're using Hiker, and in a lot of games we just never got to that point, either because I did something silly like forget to play Versus Seeker in front of an item lock deck, and because things like Roxy were not the most consistent. So the game where we kind of just bricked the entire time, that game would have gone a lot better, I'm sure, had we had something that was not the Roxy in, right? But yeah, other than that, though, I still really like this deck, to be completely honest. There are some things I would change in terms of card count and stuff, and I would consider changing Mr. Mime for Machoke, maybe. I don't really know. We could also consider putting in, actually, is this card even legal? Rabombi? It totally is, yeah. Because a problem we had in matchups where Mr. Mime is useful, the opponent is going to try and boss that up to get rid of it, or Guzma up, or whatever. And Mysterious Buzz... oh, wait, no, hold on. I don't have the filter on. Rabombi is a red card, therefore we cannot use it. Okay, never mind. In that case, yeah, I do think Mr. Mime is a good choice. know, obviously Machoke is objectively better, but also Machoke is a stage 1. Yeah, we could use stuff like a Bricklet Hill to get the Machop in play, but we're going to want to be using Blizzard Town. So I do think Mr. Mime is good. I think Mr. Mime should stay there. Mr. Mime, just having Mr. Mime was really, really nice. Even though it was only useful in one game, because there's only one game where we didn't get the control up fast enough, or excuse me, the lock fast enough to get going. Mr. Mime was really, really helpful then. I still really like Drifloon. I feel like Drifloon would have been a lot better if I had actually remembered to use Counter Energy, because I'm trying to attach Psychic Energy manually, so it takes 2 turns to power up a Drifloon, whereas with Counter Energy, I can just attach a single energy and not only buy myself the opponent from attacking, but maybe something on the bench as well. Also, Spell Tag was a bit more necessary than I was led to believe. There were a lot of instances where I only needed like 1 more damage counter to put something in Blizzard Town range, and that's, you know, where Spell Tag would have been really, really, really nice. So I think if I were to redo this tournament, I really would just get rid of the Roxy engine. It is really nice and it is very satisfying to just draw 6 cards out of nowhere, but unfortunately, it just takes up too much deck space. For Roxy, for Battle Compressor, for River Seeker, to execute. Granted, if I knew Junk Arm was legal, I would definitely be playing for Junk Arm. So I probably would be playing the 2 Execute anyway, and I probably would be playing Battle Compressor, and we're playing River Seeker anyway. So it's not like by getting rid of Roxy's engine, we're afforded that much more cards. Also, Dunsparce was not as useful. Dunsparce is like nice on paper, but it really wasn't that useful. It's probably better to use some other turn 1, you know, get your board set up Pokemon other than Dunsparce. I just thought Dunsparce was nice because I'm kind of used to it anyway. Strike and Run is really powerful, searching for 3 basic Pokemon, and Sudden Flash damage is not negligible in a Blizzard Town deck. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I think I went over everything. I tried my best to make this short, but this segment's like 20 minutes long already. Oops. But yeah, again, if you want to know, well, I was going to say, if you want to know more, you could check the VOD, but I guess the VOD doesn't really tell you more, it just gives you context to what I've said here today. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I won't delay, because I'm sure at this point, the overall video, composite video itself will be like an hour long. So I'm just going to end it here. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will catch you guys next time for more shenanigans. Until then, take care.